You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Peyton Manning joining the Pat McAfee show. I want to say McAfee, but it's McAfee. My apologies, Pat. Mentioned that he's going to be going to Norman for Tennessee OU. And dude, that's going to be fun. That's going to be super fun. I love Peyton Manning. I know maybe he's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think he and Eli do a fantastic job on the Manning cast on Monday Night Football. It's created a very entertaining element to watching Monday Night Football every single season. So I love that. And I'm a fan of the commercials. Just the dopey, goofy, silly commercials. I even remember back to the ESPN ones where him and Manning and Eli and Archie are taking the tour through ESPN headquarters and they're picking on each other. Like, I love that commercial. So Peyton Manning coming to Norman, whatever the pregame situation looks like, whether it's College Game Days coming to town or you just get the Pat McAfee show or whatever it is, it's going to be so much fun to have him in Norman, probably get some Bob Stoops and Peyton Manning interaction. I think that could be a lot of fun too. So it's going to be great. And he had some things to say about Oklahoma and Texas joining the conference and was just really kind of excited about the renewed rivalries, mostly focusing on Texas, but talking about, and here's what Peyton Manning had to say. I think there's going to be some immediate rivalries created with Texas and Alabama, Oklahoma and Tennessee. It's not going to take long to create these rivalries. Obviously, Texas A&M, Texas, bringing that back is awesome. Bringing Texas, Arkansas back, I think that's awesome. Both those teams are going to fit right into the conference and make an incredibly difficult conference even harder.
I love the fact that he pointed out that the conference is now going to be harder because Oklahoma and Texas is in there. He didn't say that the conference, they're going to have, just some guys, it's going to be in the middle of the road and, right, potentially be okay. No. He pointed out specifically that it's going to be harder, which is exactly what we're trying to preach to all of you all for the last few weeks. Both teams coming in here, they're going to create a challenge. The biggest challenge is recruiting. Go look at those recruiting numbers. Oklahoma and Texas are both always in the top 10, if not top 5 of recruiting. And so they're taking away a lot of players that some of these other schools actually want. Now, granted, the question is, how do you develop them and how you execute with them? You hear me say execute a lot. That's the key word here. But no, I love the fact that he's going to make the trip to the Tennessee game. I figure a lot of the big Tennessee name people will be in town again for that game, especially because it is the first SEC game for Oklahoma, which is going to be exciting to see. And then you'll see Nico Iamaleava be able to come out there and potentially have a big shootout with Jackson Arnold because they were both in the same class, both 5-star plus guys. And, considered the two with the highest upside, probably that entire class, right? So, yeah, it's going to be a fun time. And, of course, Peyton's going to enjoy himself. Hopefully he's on one of the broadcasts or he pops up into one of the broadcast rooms and, be able to participate in some of it. And if things go right, I mean, shoot, there's a good chance we could have some College Game Day in town for that one, right?
Yeah,
it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, breaking Oklahoma into the SEC in Norman, I mean, it seems like a great opportunity to have College Game Day. We'll see what they reserve that for because, again, you have OU Texas, you've got OU going to Auburn, you've got OU Alabama, you've got OU LSU. I mean, there's so many potential opportunities to feature Oklahoma in a College Game Day, but they're going to spread the wealth a little bit on that front. So it wouldn't surprise me to see something, whether it's SEC Now or different SEC network shows come into Norman for that week. Paul Finebaum, who knows what exactly will happen, but that they're going to build that up and it's going to be a celebratory week leading up to it.
Yeah, looking at the schedule, that's probably one of the bigger games for the daytime. That's the one that you would want to do game day on. That's the game that you would want to have them for because, that game should be ranked. And besides LSU, UCLA, I think that's the biggest game of that week, right? I mean, you've got a couple of other matchups that could be considered, like Clemson and North Carolina State or something. Maybe a BYU Kansas State, but I don't think BYU will be ranked at that point. The way this schedule is looking, there's a very good chance, if this isn't a night game, let's, cross fingers and toes, But there's a good chance that this is the game that College Game Day shows up for that week, because there's nobody else on the schedule that's going to be ranked except for USC Michigan, in which that's most likely big noon Saturday. So there's a good chance that College Game Day pulls up and shows up for the Tennessee and Oklahoma game if both go into that game undefeated.
Yeah, so I actually picked that game when I was going week by week through the 2024 college football season and picking an SEC game to watch each week. I tried to stay away from Oklahoma games because obviously Oklahoma fans are going to be watching every Oklahoma game. But when I looked at week 4, this was the one that jumped out more than any of them. Mm-hmm. Obviously UCLA, LSU is going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a great SEC non-conference game. But as far as like the best SEC game on the schedule, week 4, it's Oklahoma, Tennessee.
Yep.
There's no better matchup. Obviously the pomp and circumstance of Oklahoma having their first SEC game, the Volunteers coming to town, I talked on a Tennessee radio show this past week about how you've got a lot of storylines to follow and to watch and a lot of talent, with that Tennessee Volunteers team, the return of Josh Heupel. There are going to be so many stories and so many video packages and interviews that are done. Like, it just makes sense to have College Game Day in town for that one. Any final thoughts on anything that we discussed here today, Jay?
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that the storylines that Oklahoma has in play are huge, right? From, Josh Heupel making his valiant return back home to the school that he first got his first job. He won a national championship and all of that. So he's coming back for the first time since technically being fired back in 2014, right? You've got that story. You got Shane Beamer making his return to Oklahoma, to Norman for the first time, right? Since he left from the Riley team and went over there to South Carolina. You got the OU Texas rivalry, right? That's going to be a big one. You're going to have Alabama coming to town for the first time since the early 2000s, and Oklahoma winning that series 2-0. There are so many good storylines in all of these games coming up that Oklahoma's got a nice amount of advantage to wanting to getting people to want to talk about them. Let's put it that way. So I'm keeping my eye on this schedule. I think that week 4 will get game day. Week 5 is definitely going to be Georgia, Alabama. It's no question about it what game day is going to be for that week. I don't care what their record is. They're going to be there for that game because that's the one they want to see. And no, it's going to be cool to see a lot of the people coming in, the SEC's royalty coming into town to visit during our games. I'm pretty stoked to see it.
Yeah, this whole season is just going to be one of those where if Oklahoma has any kind of success, it's going to just send that recruiting skyrocketing.
Oh my God.
Everybody's just kind of sitting there waiting with bated breath a little bit, just waiting. They wanted to see the 10-3 season. That helped them secure that 2024 class. But if they go into the SEC and they have another 10-win season, I think everybody's going to be ready to say, okay, this Sooners team, this Brent Venables coaching staff, they're heading in the right trajectory. I want to be on that team. I want to help them go win a national title. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Make sure you're subscribed to the Locked On Sooners Insider program by texting SEC 2024 to 405-817-6711. You can get 25% off your first month by texting SEC 2024 to 405-817-6711, or you can follow the link in the episode notes as well. Also, I'm going to share that article I wrote for Sooners Wire in the episode notes. One SEC game to watch each week of the 2024 college football season. Go follow Jay on Twitter at Unfair Sports. Also, go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube as well. Follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, wherever you follow your socials. We're there. Go check it out. Again, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and go check out the Locked On SEC podcast with Chris Gordy as well. Doing great work covering everything, every angle from the SEC Media Days. Had a lot of great interviews this week on the show. I enjoyed listening to that myself, catching up, getting to know some of these players that Oklahoma is going to be facing this season as well. But he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We're going to catch you next time. Boomer.
Sooner.